Well, I like making food that tastes good, and I don't even mind making food that tastes bad. But if I had to choose, I think I'd pick the former. So if you want to know how to make it a little bit better, but maybe not quite as good as it maybe could be, I think that you should listen to what I'm talking about. And if you learn a little something from this, well, I hope it served a purpose, and hey, that's what we're here for. Good, better. Nailed it. Woo! Hello, and welcome to the Cook Better podcast. My name is Corey, and I am the host of this podcast, and I just wanted to take a few minutes and just let you know what this is all about. I love to cook, and I love to eat, and I've realized that in order to eat well and keep the price tag at a minimum, you really have to learn to cook it yourself. And I don't like relying on other people to make my food for me, right? I like to be able to do things myself. And so really this podcast is just me talking through dishes, maybe just not necessarily full meals, but individual dishes, ingredients, and things that I cook, and just talking through what I've learned over the years. I'm 38 years old, and I've really only been cooking since I got married, so about 20 years old. So I've got 18 years of cooking in, and I've learned a lot over that amount of time. I've asked, family, my mom, anybody that I talk to. I love talking about cooking with people, and I like learning about how other people cook. There's things that we make all the time, daily or weekly or maybe even monthly, that we've done the same way, that I've done the same way, and then somebody says, well, I just do this. This is what I do with, and that kind of makes a little bit of sense. Let me try that. And all right, that's the way I do it from now on, because that works better, that tastes better. And so I just want to, that's what this podcast is going to be about, just kind of going through what I've learned and sharing it so that maybe somebody will learn something that they didn't know. And I'm hoping that along the way, I will learn how to do things differently, how to cook better myself. I plan on having guests come and sit in with me for different things. People that are more of an expert on certain. I don't want to stretch myself and make promises I can't. I can't follow through on. But there's going to hopefully be some people that are definitely more experts in the area than I am, with some growers of some good food, and some. Just people that know how to make it, that maybe somebody that does it for a living. I'm a home cook. I don't like that term, but I suppose that's probably the most accurate description of my abilities. I think it diminishes the value in some ways, and I'm not really worried about the value of myself. I think I don't really care what somebody thinks of me. If I put a plate of food in front of them, I hope that they like it and they're not going, this is great for a home cook. It's not good enough, So, but I think of anybody, a mom or a dad in my case, or anybody that makes food for somebody, I appreciate that, right? If somebody's making me a meal, I don't care if they're a home cook or a backyard griller cook, or a chef at a, Michelin star restaurant. I appreciate the effort that goes in to preparing a dish and to making food. And in the name the name Cook Better isn't like you need to cook better, but it's more of a middle ground. and where, you got the good, better, best an analogy, if that's what it is. And that's kind of what I want to be. And I think of good as in you are making a meal for your family or even just for yourself, but you're making a meal. It's not great. It's not perfect. It's you bought ingredients of any kind and you put them together and you've got a meal on the table, maybe a meal for your family, and you're making food, and that is good. And really in some ways that's great to be able to. There's not many people that sit down around the table and have a meal, whether that's even somebody alone or somebody with a family or just a significant other or whatever, a friend. So that's good. Just preparing a meal from some type of scratch, even if it's heating up something and you're only doing a couple steps, you're just mixing a couple things together. It's simple. But you're making it. You're not going to fast food and buying it, or even better, you're going to the grocery store. You're not getting DoorDash with whatever meal from whatever restaurant. That's good, right? And best would be, top of the line gourmet type of meals, something that, really high elevated. We can all imagine in our minds. Maybe it all depends on where we're at, but what that top level, that top tier is, that's best. And I want to be somewhere in the middle. I can't afford to spend top dollar on making octopus and I don't know why that pops into my mind, but you know what I'm talking about. I don't have caviar and all these exotic ingredients. Some people that might not seem exotic, but to me, and that's what pops up. But foie gras and all this crazy things that you're paying hundreds of dollars per plate at a restaurant, that's way up there. And I want to be, like I said, I want to be in the middle. I want to be cooking from scratch as much as possible. But I don't want to make anybody feel bad for not making something for scratch. I can make bread from scratch, and I do, but not every time. I use healthy ingredients quite often, but not every time. And I'm trying to get better constantly. It's an uphill battle. But the beautiful thing is, and the thing that I've realized is I can make some really just some good dishes, stuff that when I go to I don't want to name names, but you get to a point, and maybe some people are out there, and then maybe they'll just listen to me talk because I don't know how much, but you get to a point in your cooking journey where you start to make things better than what you're buying at the restaurant. And that might be just if you're going to a mid-level restaurant or something, and it's like, man, this could be so much better. You get to a point where this isn't seasoned properly, and if they just did a little bit, I can't believe I'm paying money for somebody. But it's nice to have that experience of going out for dinner, but getting to that point where you can recognize what's in a dish and maybe even what's missing in a dish, into where, all right, I'm going to try that. And that's what I love to do. I like to go. There's a few things that I always get when I go out to eat, and that's Brussels sprouts. If it's an option as a side, I love Brussels sprouts, but I will get a meal that is not typical, either something that I've not ever made and I want to try, or something that piques my interest that I think, oh, maybe I could make that. I want to try it for that reason, or I want to learn how to make it, so I'm going to try it. And see how they do it, and maybe I can replicate the flavors if I'm going to a restaurant that's got something a little different than what I typically do at home myself. And so that's kind of where Cook Better came from. That's the idea, somewhere in the middle. It's not a challenge or not me saying you need to do better. It's just saying I want to cook better. I want to be in that middle area, and I want to continue to learn as I move forward in cooking. And it's exciting to me. And there's so many things that I've learned and I'm sure you have too, where it seems hard in the beginning. And then that one, even some things, it's just one extra step. And it makes all the difference. And all of a sudden it's, oh, that's how they made that at the restaurant. That's why my rice doesn't stick together. Or when I go to the Mexican restaurant, it's because they did this. Or if I just use this technique instead of the way I was doing it, some things are just an even swap for time, right? Instead of boiling the water, and that takes 3 minutes or 4 or 5 minutes to come up to a boil, and then, well, if you're boiling a vegetable for whatever reason, maybe if I pan sear them or saute or whatever, the time is a even swap a lot of times. It's just a technique thing or a timing thing as far as when you do something or when you have to change and go to that next step. So the other part of this that came, or the reason this came about, is that I spend a lot of time now with the job that I do. I spend a lot of time in my truck, and I'm driving around a lot, and I like listening to podcasts. I'm the type of person that I like to, I always want to learn something. I'm entertained by learning, if nothing else, and something in my mind. I love music. Music is like my number 2 passion. I love to play music. I love to sing and everything, but I love to cook, but I love to learn. And so I was looking for a cooking podcast, not something that's step-by-step recipes necessarily, but just somebody discussing everyday cooking. And I couldn't find it. And maybe there is one out there. There are some that will take and do that, give you that step-by-step instruction. And I might go through a little bit of step-by-step, but I'm not giving you, a teaspoon of this or 3 tablespoons of that, and then make sure you do this. Or I want to give people general ideas, because that's the beauty of cooking, is that once you get a general sense of even just flavors or seasonings or it just kind of what flavors in each cuisine go together, right? What are Thai flavors? What are some Middle Eastern flavors? Some cinnamon, some cloves, some coriander, and turmeric and stuff. What do these different cuisines use, and how do they put them together? And then when I'm making rice, or I'm making a bread, or I'm making a meat, have some kind of protein with vegetables, now I know if I want to turn this to a Thai dish, or I want to turn this to a Chinese dish, or a Mexican dish, or whatever, or something from the Middle East, I know what flavors to add. And so that's kind of the discussion around what I want to talk about, or that's what I want to talk about. It's just how to get to a point where I know how to make rice. Now that I know the best way to make rice, I can then substitute my seasonings, and using the same method, come up with a different flavor that's going to complement my protein or something like that. And so, like I said, this isn't a step-by-step recipe thing. This is a more general technique, and just kind of broaden the way we do things. I've learned a lot from trial and error. I've made a lot of mistakes, right? Especially as a new cook. And I also, I really do want to cook healthier, and that might turn some people off, and I don't want to hear about how we need to eat healthier and whatever. Or, and I agree with that. And that's the thing, when finances are limited, sometimes this is all I can get. But fast food being the only option, I think, is terrible as a cheap alternative to cooking for yourself. And I think that when you start weighing actual cost, there are making it at home is definitely better. And I constantly am striving to make things healthier. I need to eat healthier. I'm a parent. Not everybody listens to this is going to be, but as somebody, whether you're mom, dad, husband, wife, whatever, if you're cooking for other people, you feel that burden of, I want to make this taste good, but I also want to give those that I love something healthy to eat and something that's going to be good for their body as opposed to something that's going to be bad. And once you start making bread from scratch, and I, like I said, I do that sometimes. I've also got white store-bought sandwich bread I'm not perfect, in my pantry. And you start to look at the ingredients that are in these things. In a store-bought loaf of white bread, I don't have one in front of me, but there's got to be 20 different ingredients. But if you have ever made bread from scratch, it's flour, yeast, water, maybe salt, and that's it. There's sugar, depending on, and you can start adding some jalapeno and some cheddar and some to get flavors. But, 4 things for your basic white bread. And yet, when you buy it off the grocery store, supermarket shelf, there's 15, 20 ingredients. Look at the back of a cake mix. How many ingredients there are, and a cake mix is very similar ingredients to a bread. There's like 4 things, and so, and they taste just as good, if not better, when you learn how to do it. And I'm learning. It's like I said 10 times already. It's trial and error. But I love watching cooking shows. If you come over to my house, you're going to see either football or cooking shows on my TV. And I can watch any channel, food competitions. It's always interesting to see how people come up with stuff and whatever. I know some of that's maybe not realistic, but like America's Test Kitchen and PBS channel stuff. And I love watching people cook. I love learning about other cultures. My YouTube channels, all my subscriptions the bulk of them are cooking. And I just love to learn about it. And I love to share about it. And I love to have conversations. The other reason this podcast came about is just because when I'd get together with my brother and my the rest of my family, I'd just sit there and we'd go, well, what did you cook this week? And we just talk. And we talk for, an hour about, I tried making this, and then I tried this, and I finally bought some whatever, and we just have conversations about it. And that's really what this podcast is going to be. Some of it's going to be stuff where you might go, hey, I took something away from that. That was great. Some of it's just like, I listened to Corey talk to his brother or his friend about cooking for an hour. And so some of it's just going to be, hey, what do you do? And I'll be talking with somebody, and they'll share their ideas, and I'll share mine, and it'll just be story time, something like that. And then, like I said, I'll have some where I really want to dig into some individual dishes, more like rice or Brussels sprouts or grilled cheese, and kind of break them down of, here's your base level, not that there's anything wrong with that, and then maybe here's a middle, here's a top, if we want to get into getting real elevated. And if you're a professional chef, some of what I'm going to say, you might go, this guy, he don't even know. And I would say that is accurate. But I will say that I have gotten much better from where I was. And I'm continuing to learn, and I love it. And I love cooking. I love trying new things. And I can't think of a food that I won't try or that I don't look forward to eating. And like I said, I appreciate any time somebody cooks for me. But when I cook, I want to present something that I can be proud of. At the end of the night, I gave my family or my friends or whoever or myself something that I don't feel bad about eating. And that being said, there are plenty of quesadillas and grilled cheese sandwiches and cakes and cookies and that kind of thing that I make just because they taste good. There is absolutely no health benefit whatsoever, but that's all the stuff that we're going to be talking about. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. This has been a long time coming. I've got some great friends and acquaintances and family that I'm going to lean into to discuss some of these topics. And I think it's going to be exciting. I hope that you listen, and I hope that you take something away from it. And I hope this introduction gets you as excited as I am, I will be. I'm just pumped to do it and finally get into it. So stay tuned, listen, and give me ideas if you've got ideas on what you want to hear. I'd love to hear them. thecookbetterpodcast@gmail.com. And we're going to get into all kinds of stuff. So that's what this is about. I'm excited about it. I hope you're excited. Stay tuned. Thanks for listening.